So today, we're digging into a huge question. How can we possibly solve our biggest global challenges when they all seem so tangled together? We're going to be looking at a framework called collective evolution at scale, which, let me tell you, proposes a radically new way of thinking about all this. Let's dive in.
You've probably felt it, right? That feeling that climate change, social division, economic anxiety, they aren't really separate issues, are they? It feels more like one giant tangled knot. Well, this explainer argues that's not just a feeling. It's the absolute reality of our world. And seeing that connection, that's the very first step to figuring out how to untangle it.
And that brings us to our first big concept, the evolutionary polycrisis. Now, poly just means many, but the idea here is so much deeper than just having a bunch of crises at once. It means we are in one single overarching meta-crisis, where every single problem is actively making the others worse.
This really gets to the heart of it. You just can't solve ecological decline without looking at the economy. You can't fix social fragmentation without considering technology's role. So the old way of doing things, tackling problems in their own little boxes, it just doesn't work anymore. It can't, because the problems themselves are all linked up.
And this is where the perspective gets really, really interesting. This quote frames our crazy, turbulent times not just as a breakdown, but as a potential breakthrough. It's suggesting we're at this evolutionary crossroads, kind of like a chrysalis moment where the future isn't set in stone. Both total collapse and incredible transformation, they're both on the table.
Okay, so if the problem is this deep, tangled interconnectedness, what in the world is the solution? This brings us to the second huge idea. The answer isn't some new gadget or a single policy fix. No, it's a fundamental shift in how we relate to each other. It's all about unlocking the power of synergy.
We hear the word synergy thrown around all the time, right? But what does it actually mean? It's so much more than just teamwork. It's that magical exponential value that pops up when different parts work together to create something way bigger, way more impactful than any of them could have done on their own. It's all about an alignment that just multiplies impact.
A perfect way to think about this is a jazz band, right? You've got a super skilled drummer, a brilliant pianist, a soulful saxophonist. On their own, they're amazing. But when they start improvising together, truly listening and responding to each other, they create a piece of music that's completely new and just so much more powerful than the sum of their individual talents. That, right there, is synergy in action.
But how do you create that kind of jazzy synergy on a global scale? Well, the key, according to this framework, is something called conscious collaboration. And this isn't just about people happening to work on the same project. It's about being incredibly intentional and deeply aware of how we work together, grounding everything we do in trust, shared values, and genuine listening.
So let's break down what that actually looks like. It all starts with making sense of the world together. That's shared sensemaking. From there, it's about cooperatively building the road forward. But listen, none of that works without creating environments of deep trust and psychological safety, where people feel genuinely free to be honest and creative. And finally, it demands that we are always learning and adapting as we go.
Okay, so we get the problem, the polycrisis, and the big picture solution, synergy through conscious collaboration. But how do we actually do it? How do we build this thing? Well, that brings us to our third section, a practical blueprint built around 7 foundational capacities for change. And here it is. You can think of this as the architectural drawing for a whole new kind of global collaboration engine. Every single one of these 7 capacities is a critical gear in that machine designed to help us navigate this polycrisis together. Let's walk through them.
First up, collective systems sensemaking. This is basically our ability to see the whole chessboard. It means we have to move beyond just looking at problems in isolation and start developing a shared map of the complex, interconnected systems we're all a part of.
Second, we need a wise decision-making infrastructure. It's not enough to just see the problem. We need much better ways to make choices as a group. This is about building new processes and platforms that help us turn that shared understanding into wise, long-term actions that are good for everyone.
Third, right at the heart of this engine, we've got conscious collaboration and trust. We just talked about this, right? This is the essential social fabric. It's the ability to build that deep trust and psychological safety that lets real creative cooperation actually happen.
Fourth, our models for governance desperately need an upgrade. This capacity is called adaptive governance. It means creating institutions and rules that are flexible, responsive, and can actually evolve in real time as our challenges and our understanding change, instead of being stuck in these rigid old structures.
Fifth is all about turning plans into action. Synergistic scaling and action orchestration.
This is the nuts and bolts, the logistical capacity to coordinate our efforts effectively on a massive scale. Think of a conductor leading an orchestra, making sure that millions of individual actions create a harmonious, powerful outcome instead of just chaos.
Sixth focuses on the human side of things, transformation supportive learning, culture, and meaning. This is all about fostering cultures in our organizations and societies that actually embrace change, that value continuous learning, and are united by a shared sense of purpose. It's the why that fuels the what.
And finally, number 7, life-aligned metrics and accountability. And honestly, this is a radical shift. It means we have to stop measuring success just in terms of money or GDP growth and start measuring what actually matters for the well-being of people and the planet. And then we have to hold ourselves accountable to this new life-centric dashboard.
So that's the blueprint. But you know, a blueprint is one thing, actually building it is another. In our final section here, it looks at the sheer mind-boggling scale of this challenge. The answer is staggering. This isn't about a few new startups or government programs. This is about a transformation on a civilizational level.
To even start, this new collaborative infrastructure would need to support the world's 10 to 12 million nonprofit and civil society organizations.
It would also have to engage the 330 to 370 million businesses and enterprises all across the globe. We're talking everything from tiny corner shops to massive multinational corporations.
And it requires a fundamental evolution in our education systems, which means involving the world's 65 to 75 million primary and secondary schools.
I mean, just look at this summary. The numbers are immense. We are talking about hundreds of millions of organizations across every single sector of society. And that gets us to the most crucial point. No single company, no single government can do this alone. The transformation has to be a collective effort, happening all at once across the entire global system. The framework uses this phoenix symbol to really capture the heart of this moment. It represents regeneration, the possibility of a new, healthier world rising from the ashes of the old one. At the end of the day, this isn't just a technical problem to be solved. It's a human one. It requires aligning our incredible technology with wisdom and our methods of collaboration with genuine care. So, we have a diagnosis of the problem, the polycrisis. We have a proposed solution, a blueprint for conscious, synergistic collaboration on a planetary scale. This leaves us with one final, urgent question. The tools and the understanding, they're emerging. Can we, as a species, learn to use them and truly work together in time?